I'm just sort of running along the top edge where I didn't put any colour, but I'm just encouraging any colour on the tip. Sort of just colour that up a little bit, but nothing really. And I want to leave, there's a little space that I left. I painted on one side and then the other, and left a tiny little, we'd call him a highlight. He's not much of a highlight, he's just a little space. Yeah. I want to encourage that area to be a little bit lighter, so I'll just leave that. There's a few little bits of shadow there, and just drag in. I'm going to leave that to dry, and then I'll come back and add more, strengthen up the pink a bit more on that flower. Okay, and this actually I would say is almost about right, so I won't be going anywhere near there. Well, a little bit near there, but not much. I'm going to paint around it. Because I want it to blend into there, I am going to run my water brush just sort of along where the blend line will be, really. But I did leave, I don't run my water brush along the top edge, because I want that to be dry so that you can paint a crisp line. It'll just blend further in the petal. Drag that down a little bit. Yeah. And the same angle as how the flow of the petal is. And I'll leave that. I can do this one. I do tend to like to do my lines in one go, if I can, rather than, I don't want to paint a little bit and then a little bit. I do try and paint them in one go, because then you get a nice, smooth, even wash. So I'm just almost like growing the wash outwards a little bit, that's all. This whole area can do to be darker. You do have to move a little bit quickly with the water brush on magenta, because magenta does like to dry in a line, and you may not want that in particular. You may want it soft, so you either paint in smaller sections so you can control the drying and move quicker. Okay, now that we want to keep. This could be a little bit darker though, so I'm going to just do a slightly lighter magenta than what I've been using perhaps. Let's see. That's a bit better there. I want to just sort of add a little bit around here, but I still want to keep that part here quite light, so okay, so you know what's funny? I've got dinner in the oven, right? Because it's 6:43 here p.m. And it's roasting away. And I was smelling it, and I was like, somebody's got something going on their oven. For some reason, I thought it was one of you ladies had something in the background.
Hubby's cooking a roast tonight too.
Oh, yum yum. Yeah.
Actually, I was looking forward to.
For those of you who don't know, Helen's husband's a chef, and so that's highly convenient.
Didn't know that before I married him,
Oh,
honestly.
didn't you?
No.
What a joy.
He was a food and beverage manager when I knew him.
Oh. And he
It
sort of...
wasn't until I actually married him I realised he was actually a fully trained chef.
Oh, how lucky is that? Oh my God. But I do think it's a bit weird every now and again. I think to myself, isn't it slightly weird sitting at a table and then I put something down in front of, my husband, and I think, he has no idea what he's going to eat from 1 minute to the next. I just sort of like look in the fridge and go, oh, I'm going to do this. And it's not like I tell him what I'm doing. It just appears in front of him, right? And he doesn't lurk in the kitchen or anything to sort of see what might be coming for evening dinner. I just think it's strange, like if I sat at a table and just like, oh look, this is what you're eating tonight. You're just like, oh okay, thanks.
That's what I do.
You're like, oh, what have we got tonight? Surprise. Except for roasties, because you can always smell those. So this one I'm just, it's quite a light wash, this colour. And this petal is quite light, so I'm not doing anything too dark. I'm just emphasising it a little bit up here where we had our blue wash. It's a little bit darker, and I've kind of just done a little stripe here that I might just leave, and let's see, because it's not very, I want to make sure my wash is light enough, because it's just not very dark. So I might just run some lines really. I'll water them down a little bit. I'll soften them out with my brush, but I don't think I want to do anything too much more to that. And there is a sort of a lightness to the end. I need to, well, it looks a bit wobbly actually, the edge. I need to go over that with my flat brush at some point. Yeah, that's okay. And up here, just a little bit there. I think I want to soften that part here. It has dried. There we go. Okay. So how does that look for? Well, it is darker, certainly. It's still not looking particularly amazing, as they never do. That's dry, so we could come in with a little bit of a shadow. What might that shadow be? It's a funny colour, that, you know, the stalk of these cyclamen. They're really, well, they're funny because you look at it and go, it's just a brown. It's kind of a brown, and in my head I'm like, oh, I don't really want it to be that colour. It's just, you know, it looks a bit brown, really. And what I might do, just so we have something there, is pop in a very light wash of something for it. I might do a green, actually. It's not green, but I will do a green because the green will mute any other colour we put over it later anyway, so that's fine. And I'm going to do, I'll just do my Tear Vert green. That is a moss green, and you can make that yourself just by using a lemon yellow and a nice sort of ultramarine blue, something like that. It's not, you don't need to go out and get it, okay? It's a sort of just a nice, soft, mossy green that doesn't tend towards yellow but tends towards a blue colour. Which is why if you use a lemon yellow or something like that, which is a more cool yellow, with a just a cooler blue, something like that cobalt blue or ultramarine, you'll be able to get that kind of nice mossy green colour. Kind of a nice base, and we may use it in some of the shadows at some point. It's almost like a space holder for the moment, really, just because I just need to put something in there. Because it's that, if you look at the photo, it's kind of this reddish, brownish stalk. And it's not an attractive colour, I don't think. But it helps as a placeholder, really. And we can put it in here a little bit as well.
Okay, you just lost your roots cut.
Okay. And seeing as I've got it on my brush, I'm going to put it down the very bottom bit here, which is out of shot, but I'll let you know. But I don't think it's important. It's just a stripe of colour, just so that we have the same colour going through. Nothing exciting. Okay, so now that I do have my moss green on my brush, how much do I have of it? Not very much. It's very light now. I'm going to use that as part of the shadow right here, which is a really nice shadow. I mean, nice as in it's quite dramatic. So we really need to make sure we get it in there, because it's going to be quite interesting for the painting. And it comes down. And there's a triangle shape there. And I think we can put it through here a little as well. very softly, this part in here. And I might just take a little bit off up there so that it's not quite as strong there. Now it's quite sort of placed on in quite a sort of shape at this point, but I will come in and I will blend it with that tool rather than trying to blend it with my brush, the edge with my brush. I think I'll do it with the flat brush instead. You can have more control, and especially in small sections. And while I'm here and I can see them, I'm going to pop in a couple of lines that I see are the ridges of the petal. Quite soft though. There we go. So nothing strong there at all. And so another soft wash of colour. And I'm just going to hook on this part here. Always very soft. I don't know if you'll pick them up on the video, but that's what I want for the moment, just while I'm sort of working out where the ridges go. There's some really nice lines I want to make sure I get. So still using that moss green, so that tear vert colour. And again with this I can come in and blend it with that flat brush, soften anything that dries a little harder than I'd like. And I will blend it sort of around here some more, where that highlight is, where the petal kind of curves a little bit. I want to keep that, but I might have to make sure it's quite soft there. So there's that little bit there. Is there anything? It's really quite highlighted here. It's really, the sun really hits that. There's really nothing there to draw on paint actually. So I'm going to have to look at one of the other photos and see if there's any detail there that we can incorporate. Otherwise it's sort of like burnt out into nothing. Now seeing as I have still the moss green, the tear vert on my brush, and it's very light still, you can barely see it, I will just do the bottom edge down here. I see. And that way as well, you can erase that pencil line and you've got something there now. And just come in at the top as well. Still with tear vert, still with them. It's not very dark. I'm going to run it just along this edge underneath this petal, And with the green, what it does is it mutes down our pink. So it kind of emphasises it as a shadow a little bit more. I do that all the time. I will, rather than make something on my palette, I always tend to make it on the paper. So if I want, for instance, you know, we can, for the moment we know that this is a shadow, so I can, it's darker, so I can pop a little bit of that green over that magenta, and of course, you know, with the colour wheel thing, the green will mute down that nicely. So I'll do that on the paper rather than mix magenta and my green together, you know, with a touch of green on the palette. I don't do that anymore. I used to, but I don't now. I just do it on the paper, which is nice because that's what the you know, watercolour's about. That's, I might miss a little bit, and when I do the dry brush, you'll know what I mean. And so you've got a little bit of other colour peeking through underneath and things like that, and that's what it looks so pretty. So you don't get this sort of just block of say a muted magenta, for instance. So now you've got some shade, but I've got little lines where I've purposefully missed little bits, and it just gives it so much more dimension and kind of interest, I suppose. So still my little tear there. I'm just running it down in some sort of areas that I feel will get to a shadow colour there a little bit more. Okay. So not dramatically different, but we still have got some detail. Ooh, before we go, because we're getting there, and this will be your round tool. But before we get there, let's see. What do I want to do before? I just painted that, so let's leave that for the minute. But here, we'll put in some more, we'll pop back into some more magenta because very, very light wash. I just want to build up some of that colour where it needs to be, so that it's all ready for next week. Really light, baby pink even, okay? Ooh, but before I do that, I'm just going to make sure I take out some pencil mark there. So I've got to press a little bit harder to do that. There we go. Because it's getting to a point now that it's on its second layer that you do want to make sure any pencil marks you have are going to be either covered or you remove them, you know, by about the third layer. Okay, so my soft pink, I'm just going to, oh, that's a bit soft, it's not even anything. I'm just going to fill in that layer, but I'll go over the whole thing so it uniformly gets darker. And I'm still leaving the top, this top bit's going to be lightest, so I'm just going to sort of drag it up, but I'm not going to colour that yet. So there we go. Do we want to do that here as well? I can just add a little bit more here. And that's kind of it from here, I think. These are all okay now. one at the bottom here. There. Okay, so that's just a little bit more. Okay, so now this is dry, so we can add its sort of its first layer in some areas. The only thing I'm going to do is not paint here and not paint on this edge at the top here, because that catches the sun a little bit more, so it's a little bit lighter. So the rest I can do in a soft pink. Let's see how soft. Yeah, that will do. So I'm just going to sort of come in a little point there and blend that. And down here a little. I'm just filling that just so that it's got some colour now. I'll just keep it out of the bottom part, I think, still. And I'm sure, well, I'm not sure, but you'll know that you can sort of help yourself by removing a bit of colour if you get a little bit too enthusiastic and go somewhere you shouldn't. You can with your water brush sort of reasonably easily and quickly move that colour away, and you can obviously use a little bit of paper towel and things like that, and you can get quite a good removal rate doing that. Where you still sort of have a decently white piece of paper, even though you sort of put some colour on. Okay, so that is almost it. The only thing I want to do, because it's annoying, see that's very soft, but I'm going to dip it in some water and just make it really much softer. Just want to pop a tiny bit of that magenta colour just through here, because at the moment all that's got in there is green and I know it's not green, and so I just want to start introducing some of the what would be a reflected colour in there into that slightly greyed area, and a little bit in this top corner here as well. Where's that bell from? Oh,
It's just
Helen,
Alice.
I was going to say that cannot be an American thing. And then I thought maybe it's
7 o'clock.
Yep, exactly. Actually, ours is early. So
And ours is late.
yep, yeah. So for those who don't know, a lot of the villages in France have church bells, and ours goes off at a little bit before 7 because they haven't set it properly, and it goes on at the first one is 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's a good thing. Sometimes I sleep through it and I don't even hear it, but it chimes for ages. It chimes for a good 3 or 4 minutes. So there's that. But okay, so that is round 2. It definitely looks darker. I think we can probably go into some dry brush and start working on some of the lines of this next week. So that is your mission for this week. I will send you the photos, and so you can have a look. And I think actually working from the photos is probably about as easy as it gets.